Pokémon Horizons just dropped 2 brand new episode titles, and saying they left fans utterly puzzled is the understatement of the century. The first one is just the weirdest way to portray something from the games imaginable, and the second one just has the most absurd episode title I've ever heard in my life. We're gonna cover everything we know in this video, so be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and now let's dive into it. Pokémon Horizons episode 148, airing on September the 4th, is officially titled Koraidon and Miraidon, the Paldea Grand Race. And the episode description is as follows. One day, Liko and the others go watch a Zygarde race, where Liko ends up encountering a Miraidon and Roy ends up encountering a Koraidon. The two mistake these Pokemon for Zygarde and befriend them by feeding them. But when Koraidon and Miraidon hear the sounds of the race, they break into a dash, and Liko and Roy somehow end up entering the race as a result. So yeah, based on that episode description alone, I'm sure you can all imagine the reaction this caused in the fanbase. Koraidon and Miraidon are arguably some of the most popular and beloved box art legendary Pokemon of all time. Their storylines in the Scarlet and Violet games were just incredible. The ways they were connected to the protagonist, and Arven and his parents, and Area Zero and the Paradox Pokemon. It was all just so perfect, so well executed. They were the real highlights of those games, you know? And despite that, they never appeared in the main storyline of Horizons. They've never appeared in the anime whatsoever outside of some very brief teaser segments with Team Rocket at the end of Pokemon Journeys. So fans have been waiting for years for them to finally appear in the anime properly, and waiting that long builds anticipation and expectations, especially with the opening theme teasing they could play a big part, they could bond with Liko and Roy, maybe even become their Pokemon. So imagine waiting all of these years just to find out Koraidon and Miraidon are appearing in the anime, but not in some grand storyline, not in some epic way connected to the games, not as some huge story arc, but instead in a one and done fillery race episode. Oh brother, people are not happy. I have seen so much backlash and so many people criticising this online because fans expected so much more from Koraidon and Miraidon than this. Just using them for a race episode and then probably never seeing them again after is crazy work. It feels like the writers said, here you go, you want Koraidon and Miraidon that bad? Have them! It feels like a bit of an afterthought rather than being a grand, well-written story arc that Pokemon of that magnitude deserve. For me, I totally get why people are disappointed. If it really is just a filler race episode and nothing else, then I'll be gutted too. I really want Liko and Roy to bond with them on a deeper level and bring them along for their future journeys. The main storyline is already over, so why not just let them have fun with 2 legendary Pokemon? But since that's probably not happening, my expectations are definitely lowered going into this episode. But despite that, I really think it'd be great if Arven finally gets featured fully in this episode. Arven only ever had a very brief cameo in Horizons, which fans assumed is because the writers thought it'd be way too hard to include Arven without featuring the Scarlet and Violet storyline too. But if Koraidon and Miraidon aren't going to end up becoming Liko and Roy's Pokemon, then Arven is probably the most interesting direction they could take this. Rather than making them wild Pokemon, imagine if Koraidon and Miraidon actually still belong to Arven in this universe. Maybe at the end of the episode they could return to Arven and Liko and Roy could meet him properly. He could briefly bring up his relationship with his parents, his history with Koraidon and Miraidon, why these 2 Pokemon are so important to him. That would give this Koraidon and Miraidon an actual emotional connection to the story instead of them just being race Pokemon, you know? It'd be 100 times more impactful than them just showing up, conveniently bumping into Liko and Roy, racing for 20 minutes and then disappearing forever. But regardless, I'm gonna look on the bright side. Race episodes are always fun in every series. I'm thinking back to the Rapidash race in Indigo League, the Vikavolt race in Sun and Moon, the Rhyhorn race in X and Y, the Pokemon Summer School race in Diamond and Pearl. I don't think there's ever been a bad race episode, ever. Oh wait, apart from the turtle race in Pokemon Journeys. I think we all blocked that episode out. Okay, yeah, ignoring the turtle race in Pokemon Journeys, there's never been a bad race episode ever. And hey, I'm glad we're getting an episode focused on just Liko and Roy. We haven't really had one of those in a long while, you know? But what do you think of this episode? Let me know. Now let's talk about the other newly revealed episode. Pokemon Horizons, episode 149, airing on September the 11th, is, for some strange reason, titled a Squishy Pokemon. If you squish it and it squishes, it's squishy time? Bruh. What does that mean? So if you're literally a normal person, you'll be just as totally lost and confused by that episode title as I am, as everyone is. This one left the entire community just utterly puzzled. Like, bro, a squishy Pokemon if you squish it and it squishes its squishy time? What on earth does that mean? I have never heard an episode titled that long and that absurd and that unexplainable in my 26 years of life. I've spent an embarrassing amount of time over the past day trying to figure this one out, trying to predict what it could be. I've studied the opening themes, I've checked the Pokédex a million times, looked through every post about the Pokémon anime, but I'm getting nowhere. We know we're getting a Pokémon Go episode soon, and a Treasures of Ruin episode soon, and an Ogerpon and Loyal 3 episode soon, but I don't know what any of those could have to do with this squishy-obsessed title. Unless there's like a really blatant connection I'm missing somehow, then I don't think it's any of those. Of course, the easy assumption would be that the title is just referring to Navi's Ditto being squishy, but why would we get another episode about Navi's Ditto when we've literally had 5 or 6 of them so recently? We just can't turn that 5, 6 into 6, 7, that'd be diabolical. And how could Ditto being squishy be enough to centre an entire episode around it? Haven't we already squeezed every last drop out of Ditto already? No pun intended. But yeah, I've rewatched the opening theme over and over for any signs of what the episode could be, but the closest I've found is that in the opening theme we briefly see a swampy marshland location, with our heroes encountering some wild Pokemon, many of which are squishy I guess, so like Goomy, Shellos, Gastrodon, so maybe the episode could include some of those? I would kill for a Goomy episode, that is a top 10 Pokemon of all time. I still don't quite understand how their squishiness could be so important, but then the one thing we really have to talk about is the completely insane theory underlying all of this. The theory that makes so little sense that I can't believe I'm even saying it, but also makes way more sense than everything else because everything else is nonsensical, if that makes sense. That was way too many senses in one sentence. This episode title has left fans so confused that the only explanation, despite how completely unlikely it seems, is that Squishy could be referring to the actual Squishy. You know, Bonnie's Zygarde from the XY anime. Bonnie nicknamed Zygarde Squishy. It's a name fans have been obsessed with for over a decade, and the episode title says Squishy over and over and over. Even in Japanese it says Puni instead of Squishy, which is the exact word that Bonnie calls Zygarde in the original Japanese X and Y anime, Puni-chan, meaning squishy in English. Now that's just the translation of the words, so yeah, obviously it would mean that, but Bonnie's Zygarde is the only emphasis, the only meaning of the words squishy or Puni in the entire series. So could Bonnie and Squishy be returning? I mean, we just got the Legends Z-A game themed entirely around Zygarde and Lumio's City, the two defining characteristics of Bonnie in the X, Y, and Z anime, so maybe Bonnie and Squishy could return. It's possible. Now, we all know that feels incredibly unlikely. Horizons is literally allergic to bringing back stuff from Ash's anime after all, but if it's not that, then I truly have no idea what this episode title is referring to. If you guys have any guesses at all, then please let me know because I'm clueless, but until then, this is our best bet. So yeah, we have 2 totally chaotic, nonsensical episodes ahead, Koraidon and Miraidon appearing in a way that angered the fanbase, and then something squishy. I don't know. Hopefully they're both great episodes anyway. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed my thoughts, and thank you so very much to all of my incredible channel members on screen right now. That includes Toten, Not Mini, Jay, Hope. I also really want to give a quick shout out to our cherished community member Colton, who unfortunately passed away from cancer a few days ago at the age of 13. I'll be thinking of you watching these episodes, buddy. I truly hope it does end up being Bonnie's Squishy because X, Y, and Z was Colton's favourite series, and that would just be so sweet, you know? So thank you all so much for watching, and best wishes until we meet again.